Getting my A2 license hasn't been an easy process for me, and this has been going on for about 6 months. First, I bought a bike in July to do my test on, and that broke down, so I had to delay my test till August. I failed my test in August for doing something similar to this, changing lanes last minute on a roundabout. I couldn't record actual test footage, but it was very similar. What you can't see on camera is that there was a car right next to me in the left lane, and this was actually quite dangerous, but it was a lesson learned. I retook my test again in September, and really I should have passed, but I failed for doing something a little bit like this, getting way too close to a curb when taking an exit off the mini roundabout. But finally this week I took my test for the third time and I passed with no minors, and I'm very happy about that. I was pretty determined not to repeat the same mistakes, so for me mostly it was just slowing down, trying not to second guess the examiner, and just riding how I normally would ride. Both times I got minors for meeting situations like this, where my examiner said that it probably would have been safer to just hold back a little bit. It wasn't so dangerous to be a major, but I did get the same minor both times. But I'm an A2 license holder now, which means that I can get on with the fun stuff like riding this amazing bike without an instructor in my ear. I'm not sure if anything compares to that feeling when you're off of your 125 and onto your first big bike. It really is indescribable, and the day I passed my mod 2 and every day since has probably been some of the happiest times I've had in my life so far. It really is just one of the best feelings. I've been very lucky the past few days. The weather has been great, which isn't usually true for this time of year, but my first port of call was to take my bike on some familiar routes and journeys I know well, just to get used to the weight and the handling and everything of it. But as I mentioned in my first rides, first impressions video, the seating position is pretty similar to my 125, so even after just a few rides, I'm pretty used to it by now. Speaking of my 125, this bike is so much more powerful and fun. I had a great time in the twisties with it. It performs really well. It's basically everything that I wanted my 125 to be. It's faster, it's more responsive, it's easier to stop, it's easier to control at slow speed. It's basically perfect. I wouldn't say that I ever got bored of my 125, but I definitely would say that I outgrew it by the end, especially when I wanted to do more advanced things like overtaking and things like that. The main thing I'm not used to is the lack of wind protection. I get absolutely blasted by wind every time I take this bike out, and I'm not going any faster than I normally would. It's just that even the tiny little windshield I had on my 125 made such a huge difference, and this bike just doesn't have that. You can buy taller windshields for it though, and I've seen some on eBay, and I'm going to speak to Kawasaki as well to see if they have any available, and I think that will definitely solve the problem. More than one person has told me that I need to do an exhaust for this bike, and I agree. I think eventually I do have to do an exhaust for this bike. It would just sound amazing. But at least for now I am enjoying the sound of the stock exhaust. It's so much better than my 125, which is already a win. I waited an extremely long time to be able to do this, and it was as satisfying as I thought it was going to be. Next up, I'm looking forward to taking some more advanced training, and I really want to learn how to corner better especially. I realised on this ride that there were a few scary ones that I took a little bit too quickly. I can't really judge them that well yet, so I want to improve on that. I've read a lot and watched a lot of videos about limit points and things like that, and I guess I just can't really apply it in real life yet, but I suppose that's just the sort of thing that I need to practice a little bit more and take a little bit more training on. But I'm going to spend a few months just having fun on this bike and playing with it and getting used to it before I take any other training courses. It's pretty much the end of the season now anyway, at least for a lot of the training groups. I personally still ride throughout the winter. I've got so many adventures and trips planned for this bike. I want to take it camping, I want to go on road trips, I want to do so much, and I literally cannot wait. Stick around to see some of those trips, how I do them, and also some advice on what it's like to go from a 125 to a bigger bike, ways to practice for your mod 1 and 2. I started this channel to be a hub of information for beginner riders, especially in the UK, but everywhere, and I intend to continue that. Your input is really appreciated. The comments people have been leaving and leaving their tips, it really helps the channel and it really helps me personally, along with other beginner riders, so it is really helpful. I do appreciate it, and as always, safe riding, and I'll see you guys in the next one.